Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Us, the YouTube channel. We're back again with another fan preview, and I've got an icon of the YouTube world, the everyone's favourite guy in South Australia. I've got the amazing Per. How are you doing, Per?
Hello, great man. I'm very well. How are you?
Oh, can't complain. We've had a few technical difficulties off camera, so if anyone gets to see me close up and frozen, it's the internet. I'm not trying to come into your living room, but we're here to discuss football and your favourite thing, the Port Adelaide Football Club. How are you seeing the Port Adelaide Football Club this year?
Yeah, look, it hasn't been smooth sailing, and definitely something that we've obviously put a lot of pressure under ourselves coming into the year. But good start with beating Brisbane at home, and then the thumping of Collingwood, losing the showdown in the prison bars, and then the wild victory against Sydney up at the SCG. So it's been a bit of a 50-50 kind of year, obviously sitting 2-2, but look, great opportunity this week against the Dogs. So I don't know what to expect from Port Adelaide, but I'm hoping it's going to be a ripper.
It's an interesting game, this one, isn't it? Because both sides are probably very similar in the terms of you don't know which side is turning up. Doggies have been a bit like you guys. They've either been brilliant or they've been horrible. And it's one of them nail-biting affairs. But how are you? Are you excited about Gather Round? We all descend into South Australia. It's going to showcase the great game. Big partisan crowd. You must be feeling confident.
Yeah, definitely. I think South Australia has a lot to offer, and I'm very excited to have everyone here. I think it's going to be a massive weekend. There's obviously going to be a big festival. It's going to be a bit more than just footy here this weekend, which is going to be great. A lot of Victorians are coming over. They're going to be definitely investing a lot in our economy, which is going to be fun. But in terms of how the round looks and the excitement levels, South Australia is absolutely buzzing at the moment. There's a lot of stuff going around in Rundle Mall. There's festivities all around the Adelaide Oval. There's signage and everything. There's shit everywhere. Let's be honest. But it's fantastic, and it really helps the South Australian teams. Obviously, your boys Carlton taking on Adelaide on Thursday night, and then the big Saturday night game with the Dogs. So it helps the South Aussie teams, obviously, with being at the Adelaide Oval, but you just never know. It's going to be a massive game. How the ground holds up as well is another question. The 6 games at the Adelaide Oval. So who knows? I'm excited, and I think the whole of the state is as well.
And what are your thoughts leading into this game? How confident are you? What are the confidence levels of we're going to see a vintage Port performance? You two have played some great games in the past. We won't mention the final you played. Obviously, that was disappointment your end, but genuinely, you guys match up pretty well in this game.
Yeah, I think since obviously that dreadful prelim, we've had some really close games. Last year's game at the Adelaide Oval, we were underdone and injury prone, and we ended up winning a good game of footy, which was nice on Friday night last year. So my confidence levels are pretty good. Like, it's normally, maybe we won't win, but I think we match up pretty well overall against the Dogs. It's going to be forward line versus forward line, I feel. Todd Marshall, Charlie Dixon versus Ugur Koken and Norton. The Dogs haven't been great. I think they sort of haven't found their game style this year. And their win against the Tigers was really good in the second half, especially in the wet. So they're going to have a bit of fight about them. It's going to be wet this weekend as well. I think for Saturday night, it's supposed to absolutely piss down, which is going to be so much fun watching Port play. So I think the game's very much 50-50. My confidence levels are pretty good considering it's at home, and it's such a big occasion as Gather Round is. We'd normally stand up pretty well in those situations. So I'm just keen. I haven't been to Adelaide Oval yet this year, which is bad by me.
So last time we spoke, we talked about Ken Hinkley. He's always been sacked by the media. The media love running that article. This year, a little bit different. Beveridge has joined him. The media tried to sack Beveridge round 2 and saying that he's run his course. This game potentially could be maybe the beginning of the end for one of the coaches should they lose this.
Yeah, definitely. And I pointed out this at the end of the showdown in particular. I said Ken Hinkley's next 5 games are essentially his most important for the season. Obviously, it's a big picture. We play Sydney, we play the Dogs, play West Coast, St Kilda, and then I'm pretty sure we play the Demons on a Friday. No, sorry, we play Essendon at home. So that 5-game block is absolutely crucial. And for his sake, he's ticked off the first box against Sydney at the SCG. Mind you, Beveridge has done the same thing against the Tigers at the MCG. So, yeah, you could say it definitely will derail one of the seasons for either team. It probably hurts Hinkley more if this game's lost because of the circumstances that probably the football club are in, and we've seen the outside noise, and obviously club legend Warren Treadway speaking up his opinions, which are very valid. It has a lot of pressure on this game, especially for Ken, and I think playing at home, Port Adelaide has more at stake. And with the run that Port have going into the middle of the year, this is probably one that we should be ticking off.
Well, I mean, it's going to be an interesting game. And one thing I've noticed about the Doggies is their free-flowing game style has kind of been derailed, particularly early. And it looks like they're becoming a bit more of a controlled side. It looks like there's maybe an evolution from Bevo. And I think people forget Port only 2 years ago in that COVID year were arguably the quickest, most attractive side to watch. Do you feel like you've maybe lost a bit of that? And do you think we're going to see that in this game? Because I think that's where the Doggies' weakness is now, attacking them and going hard. That's how teams have really brought them down this year.
Yeah, I think, and we started really well with that against the Lions. Like we had that fast attacking play. We looked excellent. That third quarter is still one of the best quarters of footy I've seen from Port in 10 years. I just think the Collingwood game, we sort of got outplayed in terms of that attacking freestyle play, and there was not really a defence that day. Because both teams were playing pretty similar footy. The showdown, I think, was very similar again. But overall, our defensive style sort of didn't stand up in that situation. And then it comes to the SCG. Both teams are playing a pretty similar matching game plan. But our small forwards, our pressure around the ball, and our contested work was so much better than what they were the last 2 games that we were able to manipulate it a lot more. And it was just our skill that probably let us down the most at the SCG last week. So exposing the Dogs that way, it's always been, funny enough, that type of game at the Adelaide Oval with the Dogs. Like Port will kick a bunch of goals in a row, or the Dogs start fast, or this way, that way. Like it's always very quick. I think I'll be a little bit different this weekend with the weather, and I'm hoping it holds off. But if it's wet, I think our forward pressure and that controlled footy mentality that the Dogs will have, that will very much break down in that situation. So I don't know, to be honest. It's one of those games where it's just very simply, if we're on mentally, then I think we're going to be okay. The Dogs will match quite well, but if we're on mentally, then I don't see an issue.
And who's the key man for you guys? Who are you looking towards to have a big game and get the Port faithful firing?
Well, it's funny because all the big name players that I've sort of eyed off every week have sort of stood up. Like round one, you look at the likes of Charlie Dixon. He played really well. Didn't kick straight, but he was very prominent. And we saw a great game from Jason Horne-Francis. Round 2, you didn't really see much from Port Adelaide. Round 3, I thought Connor Rosie was very good. But when it comes to, and literally last week, when it comes to a moment, gather around, and you've got your captain out of form, not doing great. This is Tom Jonas for me. And the spotlight's on him. Like, it's very much on him. The leadership at Port Adelaide is probably down at the moment. Winning last week is going to help that confidence. But if Tom Jonas stands up in a moment where it's wet, it's gather around, it's a crucial game. If he stands up and keeps Norton or Ugur Hagen to minimal score, or he's having an impact as the third man or something, he just does the small things as a captain correctly. That's what I'm looking for. That's what's going on in Port Adelaide the game this week.
What have you thought of Tom Jonas's captaincy as well so far this year? Obviously, it's been a shame we haven't seen the icon that is Travis Boak those who know me know Boki is one of my favourite players. I do love that guy. But how have you seen the Jonas administration?
Now, it hasn't been great, and I'm not going to shy away from that. I'm not going to sugarcoat the fact that our captain at the moment is probably, if he wasn't captain, he's probably getting dropped. Like he played better last week against the Swans. I think he's realised the situation that the club's in, and obviously with Kenny's in his position, it is a bit a cause for concern. And you did mention Boki. He's had a slow start to the year as well with a rib injury and starting a sub against the Pies and hadn't got that consistency going. So our leaders are a bit down at the moment. That's something that we've lacked, and in key moments, our leadership needs to stand up. And that's why I sort of mentioned that this week is probably that moment where you go, hey, we're 2-2. It's gather round. We're hosting it. Like Tom Jonas has to stand up, has to showcase to the rest of the group that, if we're going to not do anything with this season in particular, we're going to go down fighting. And yeah, if he stands up and finds a way, he doesn't have to have 20 touches or 15 touches, but if he's putting his body on the line, getting those key spoils, taking that intercept mark or two in crucial situations, that's leadership, and he's leading from the front. So I think that's where he's got to find his confidence, is doing those 1%ers as captain.
Mate, I love that. I think that's probably the best answer we've had. Most people usually go with the iconic celebrity names, but I think it is a captain's game, isn't it? It's a big game in front of the home crowd.
Yeah, 100%. And I will keep mentioning the point, it's gather round, but the whole point of this gather round is to expose footy in a state and showcase your state as a footy, cohort. Port Adelaide is a key department in South Australian footy. Like, this is a moment for Port. It's this big stage. It's the only game on Saturday night. It's going to be broadcasted to the country. It's in our home states, on our home deck. You've got 50,000 people screaming, never tear us apart. I can't put into words how big this is going to be in terms of the atmosphere and the electricity in the air. And that's why I say, this is a captain's performance. This is a guy that will stand up. If it's pissing down with rain, Tommy, this, you want that captain to be going across the pack and punching that towards the boundary line or doing that goal-saving tackle. You think about it and you just know that's going to lift your team 5 or 10%. And in a game like this, that's where you do it. That's where you make your moment as a captain.
Mate, you've sold me. I'm sold. Do you know what I mean? Jonas is going in my motives. So there it is. He better not let me down.
Yeah, 5+ spoils. Put him in.
And obviously, with Dogs coming in, we know Bailey Smith. He's been kind of, the last 2 times he played, I remember the final, well, this was probably really the awakening for Bailey Smith. It's where he really announced himself that he was a big-time player. He's probably been really disappointed with his output this year. He's been nowhere near the levels. Is he someone that you're worried about, or who is the Doggies man that you're looking at saying, if we stop him, we win?
Tom Liberatore. He's the guy. He's the one. He's the in and under. He's the tackler. He's the pressure in the contested area. And I mentioned before, we've lacked contested possessions a lot of the time, especially when we lost. We were +11 last week. I think we were +25 or something against the Lions. But in the negatives against the showdown, and also against the Pies. He's that in and under player that gets the footy out to the likes of Bailey Smith, to Bont, who go get his own footy, like Caleb Daniell down back. It's those blokes that you got to watch out for, and they were the key guys that tore us apart in the prelim. They're the key guys that will stand up in a situation where they're going to win a footy, but they're going to get it. So Tom Liberatore is probably the one I'm watching. And then the big key forwards are probably another. I don't like our back line too much, besides O'Leary. I think that's very unsettled. So having the likes of Ryan Burton come back from suspension this week is going to be handy. And I think if we can stand up against those and then win our contested possession, shutting those players out of the game, it's going to happen. They're going to get the footy. We all know that. You can't shut a guy out for getting 5 touches or less. That's just not going to happen. That's not realism. So if we can minimalise what happens to the ball when it leaves the contest compared to actually getting the ball, then I think we're going to have a fair old game of footy.
Mate, he's an underrated player, is Libertor. Like, I love you've covered that, because something we do on this show, a lot of the icing players get the kudos and people forget the guys who have actually got the ball for them. And I love that, because I think that's what people forget. People look at McRae, look at Smith, Bontempelli, but there is a guy that's paid a lot of money to get the ball out to them guys.
Yeah, definitely. And they're hurting from losing Dunkley. Like, don't get me wrong. They think they had this 10-list midfield, but they're missing Dunkley. Like, Dunkley used to get his own footy as well. He was the big ball mover, the guy that could go down forward and kick a couple of goals. It's the same with us. Like, I'm not saying that we're perfect in that contested area. Like, I mentioned Tom Jonas to have a big game. Another one's Ollie Wines. Like, that contested area is so crucial this week. If Ollie Wines comes out and has 15, 20 contested possessions in a game in conditions that suit him best, if he's getting that ball out to Connor Rosie, Zach Butters, Jason Horne-Francis in these conditions, we're going to be having shots on goal. Like, that's how crucial this contested game is. And Wines versus Liberatore is going to be an absolute belter of a matchup if they're both on.
I mean, we do love Ollie Wines on this channel, because Voss got him to win a Brownlow, and he did the same with our version of Ollie Wines, Cripper. We do thank Port quite a bit, because we do like Vossi. We're partial to him.
Can I have him back?
Well, it'll cost you. It'll cost you.
Okay. Oh, we don't have money, so a loan?
But going into this game, like, is there any team selections you can see? Do you think that Hinkley's going to spring any surprises? We know Fantasia, who is the myth himself, is still 4 weeks away, which seems to be a constant 4-week injury. Is there anyone else that you think might be sprung in to rejuvenate your list?
Not particularly. I don't think there's too many changes. I think we'll keep a winning team. I think Ryan Burton does come back in after his suspension. So whether or not Darcy Byrne-Jones goes out completely and doesn't participate at all as the sub, or Dylan Williams drops out, who I thought was a key figure in the defence last week. You know, this is a kid that's played his second game of footy and came in and was taking intercept marks and was doing really well in trying conditions, pressurised situations. So it's going to be a tough selection in terms of that aspect, but I do think Burton comes back in, and that's probably the one change we make.
What's going on as well with my favourite, Lockie Jones?
I think he's done a slight hamstring injury. He was dropped last week, but I think there's a little bit of a niggle there, and I don't think he'll come back in this week. He's just got to find a position. Like, if he played all over the ground in the time he's been at Port Adelaide, he's just got to find his niche. And once he does that, you'll see a lot of Lockie Jones.
Do you like a little bit of Lockie Jones? I'm a sucker for the hair. Good hair.
Yeah, we're all a sucker for the hair. I would suck on the hair.
And I suppose it would be a miss of me not to mention him, because he's probably the most talked about footballer in the AFL. What have you thought of Jason Horne-Francis since he's come here? We've seen the media try and pick on him for his tackling efforts. I thought he was really good last week and showcased his talent, and looks like he's settled. How are you finding Jason Horne-Francis?
It's definitely been a player that's ridden with the wind a little bit in terms of, he was very good last week. He found his way up forward a little bit more than he did in the midfield. Round one, he was obviously best on ground. He was absolutely sensational. But in the losses, he's sort of been the barometer in terms of that attitude where, we're sort of against the grain. I'm not going to work as hard. And I'm not blaming him for that. That's a team mentality. That was right across the board. They've just picked out these scenarios because it's Jason Horne-Francis. Like, I genuinely don't understand the enigma that is Horne-Francis with the media, and it creates this outburst. Like, I don't want to get too deep, but we're so here for promoting mental health and really creating a message where it's a safe space to play footy and be a part of teammates and really enjoy the environment. And it's supposed to help you, but you've got all this bashing and crashing on a player that's 19 years old in his second year of footy, still trying to find his feet. There are some 19-year-olds that have the same attitude who don't even get to play footy. They don't even get to play a game of footy. They're on a list, but they're doing jack shit to actually get a debut. They're just going with the wind. They're on an AFL list. Happy days. Vaughan Francis is working his ass off. He'd had generally one of the worst surgeries in the off-season for a player of his age to have with his hamstrings. It was a very major surgery. He's just coming back. He's still finding his feet. Like, let him have a bit of consistency. And look, if he's had an average year by around 12, 13, yeah, okay, I'll start to make a little bit of an opinion on it. But it's round 4. He's played 3 good games of footy, and he was best on ground in one of them. He was a key component in last week's win against the Swans. He kicked a crucial goal in the second quarter. He's an elite talent, and I have no doubt he's going to have a massive impact and make a lot of people eat his words. Eat their words, not his.
No, I think you've nailed it, because I always laugh when the AFL media bring out footage and they happen to find the 1 second clip that happened. But I remember going back and watching that clip. There's about 5 Port players who do identical things before and after that. And I'm like, and some of them are 30 years old. Like, these guys should be setting the tone for a 19-year-old, not the other way around. Yep. He should be following them. He shouldn't be the example.
No, he shouldn't. Like, I could pick out 5 players from the showdown in other clips that were doing the exact same thing, if not worse. That's why Darcy Byrne-Jones got dropped. That's why Lockie Jones got dropped. Dan Houston was doing it. Like, these key components that you see on Port Adelaide's team list every single week are doing the exact same thing. This kid's 19, deserves a break. Let him have an opportunity to breathe. And I'm glad he's come to South Australia, because he's going to get that opportunity to breathe here with Port Adelaide. Not at the moment, because the club's in dire straits, apparently, according to some people. But, yeah, he's going to have an opportunity where he stands up and goes, you know what, this is me. I am an AFL footballer, and I'm dominating.
Mate, I love it. And we wish him all the best. But before we let you go, Per, prediction for this. I'm going to be watching this live, sat in this very chair. What am I going to be seeing at the 4-quarter time?
You're going to be seeing Port Adelaide to win by 25 points in the wet, and a Connor Rozee bag of 4.
Ooh. Oh, you're doing my bet for me.
Yep. I think Connor Rozee, he's going to have more of a goal-centric game of football. I think the Smalls are going to dominate with Butters and Rozee. I would love to say Boak's going to be in there as well, but I'm not sure anymore. But I can't wait for him to prove me wrong. But yeah, that's my bet. I think Port Adelaide by 25, Connor Rozee 4+.
Mate, I love it. I love it very much. And Per, mate, as always, is a pleasure. Chat, go and check out the Per's channel. He is a Port Adelaide guy, but he also does a great show, The Glass Table, which covers all of us. We're all included there, but you've just recently hit a milestone, haven't you, Per, as well?
Yeah, we recently, and of the day of this recording, we hit 5,000 subscribers. So I'm very grateful for that, and it's a big celebration considering I've been in 4,000 for about 4 years, I reckon. It felt like. So I'm very happy, and I'm grateful for everyone's support, and the AFL community on YouTube has been fantastic, and even a few of the Carlton guys and everyone involved has been sensational too. So I'm very much appreciative.
We have our moments, but everyone go and check the Per out. He's an absolute legend. He's a great guy as well. And until next time, everyone, we'll see you next time on Saturday.
Go on the Per.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad.